Hi everyone, this is Kay from AdMain, and I'm coming to you today with a video talking about antique booths. Now I have promised that I was going to make a little video about the basics of having an antique booth, and when I went about to do it, with all the information that I wanted to include and some photos and maybe a little tour of my booth and everything, it was going to turn into such a long video that I figured that a better way to do this is to upload a little video every day this week where I can talk about the basics of having an antique booth. And that way you can send questions and I can answer them in the following days. I've gotten a lot of questions already, actually, both in comments and behind the scenes, and also questions that I had not even considered. So that was very good. And you are welcome to just ask me questions. And also my kids are at summer camp this week, so I can actually steal away and make some videos. So that is also good. But anyway, this series, I guess, Antique Booths 101, will deal with what it's all about to have an antique booth. And it's really geared to sort of the newbies, people who have never sold at an antique booth before, who might not even know what it's about. Also for people who might be very experienced selling items online, for instance on eBay and Craigslist, that have never really sold anything in a sort of physical retail space. So I'm going to try to cover all kinds of things that you should consider if you want to have an antique booth. Or maybe to get some tips if you already have an antique booth already, and you're welcome to share your experiences. Even if you're experienced and this doesn't really pertain to you, please chime in and share some experience and tips and knowledge as well. So let's start. Let's go very, very basic. What is an antique booth? So an antique booth is a space that you rent in an antique mall or antique market. An antique mall and antique market is basically the same thing. So if you walk into, for instance, an antique mall and you've never been in one before, you might walk in and look at all this stuff everywhere, you know, vintage things, antique things, and you might have thought, which I did the very first time I walked in, like, wow, these people have a lot of stuff they're selling. Where do they get all this stuff? Now, so, you know, it's not really the owner's stuff. It's comprised of maybe 100 sellers in one place. And so this antique mall basically is made up of a whole bunch of spaces that people rent. And the people who own the antique market or work there, they just sell the items for you. Now, an antique store is different. Now, often there, you know, it's the actual owners and it's their own brick and mortar thing, and that's their stuff. But in an antique market or antique mall, it's a collection of sellers, and that's what an antique booth is all about. It's a rented space in a bigger collective of rented spaces. So antique booths can vary in size. You can rent anything from just a few shelves to a little corner to sort of a little room, almost like a little showcase room. So they're all different sizes, and all the different antique malls typically have various sizes to rent. And, you know, they vary greatly in price. When I started out in a quite small space. It just had a few shelves and a little bit of floor space, but I had no wall space. And then eventually I graduated up, and now I have one of the bigger spaces in my entire antique mall, where I have both shelves and floor space and wall space. So I can put pictures up, I can sell small furniture, and I can sell a ton of knickknacks on my shelves. I would advise, if you're going to start out, to start small. Start in a smaller space and work yourself up. Now, the second thing to consider about antique booths right off the bat is how much are you willing to invest, money-wise and time-wise. Now, in various antique markets, you are going to have to pay rent and a monthly rent. And in some places, I think probably the majority of places, you also need to pay commission. Now, that is on top of your rent. And both rent and commission vary greatly. Rent can be very low. For instance, if you just rent a few shelves, you know, you can probably rent that in some places for maybe $30, $40. That's what I started out like. I just rented a few shelves. And then you can, you know, work yourself up with rent. You know, I have friends, well, these are in California, and they pay like $800 in rent per month, but they sell a lot of high-end items, and you know, it works for them. But for a newbie, I would, of course, suggest that you start small. I would suggest that you start somewhere where you pay less than $100 in rent per month. And also there is the question about commission. Now there are antique malls that will take 10% commission, 15% commission. Those are very common. I know places that take 20% commission. I have heard of places that take 25% of commission, and this is on top of your rent, remember? And yeah, some people kind of compare it to the fees that you pay to sell on eBay and Amazon. You know, they just are, you know, if you are on eBay and you have an eBay store, you also pay sort of a rent, and eBay also takes commission. Where I am, I pay no commission. There are places out there where you will just pay rent and no commission. And of course, I'm going to advise you to try to look for a place, at least when you start out, where you pay no commission. Now, that might not be possible where you are. I know a lot of places do, you know, take commission. So you might not have a chance to decide on that. But definitely, if you have a couple of options, go with the ones with the lower percentage of commission as a general rule. Now, in an antique mall, in your space, what you are responsible for is to bring in your items, arrange them on your shelves, you know, keep it sort of nice and tidy. And then the antique mall, the people who work there, they do everything else. That means that they take care of the whole sales transaction when an item sells. They take care of any sales taxes. They take care of, you know, carrying stuff out to the customer's car if they need help with certain furniture pieces, whatnot. So all you have to do is take your items in, put them on your shelves, and basically leave and come back and pick up the check when stuff sells. Sounds very easy and sounds very tempting. It's a little more work than that. Don't just think that you're going to use an antique booth as a dumping ground. For instance, I hear a lot of people talk about it. They use it as a storage space for the stuff that they sell online. And that is fine. That is actually a very smart thing to do. But be smart about it in another way too. Still try to sell your stuff in your antique booth. You know, still try to make things look nice. You know, you sort of, if you commit to having a retail space, you really commit to showing off your items, not just to dump it there and you know, basically pay a storage fee, you know, so you can sell it later. I think that's kind of a bad practice. I see some people who do that in my place, and it's, yeah, anyway, I would advise you not to do that, because what a loss, really. What's very good about having an antique booth, in my opinion, and why I really like it, is that, so if you compare it to online selling, so for instance, people that go to Amazon to buy something, they know exactly what they want. You know, they look up, they buy it, they're done. eBay is similar. People generally know what they look for, but sometimes, you know, they kind of look around and they look at different categories, and, you know, they generally know. In antique malls, people just go in to browse. You have so much power into enticing people to buy stuff in the way you present it, arrange it. There is going to antique malls, I would say, is based an awful lot on impulse buys. And that is a very untapped potential. You can develop very good skills at enticing people to buy things that they never knew that they wanted, just by the way you present things, just by the way you decorate, maybe. And so when I see people getting antique booths and just basically dumping their stuff in there, they are really not realizing that they could sell this stuff for quite a bit of money. So anyway, for online sellers, I would tell you also to look at it as a really valid retail space. Then I want to talk really quick, I try to keep this under 10 minutes. I want to talk really quick about the type of antique malls you should look for. And I think as far as location is concerned, there are two ways that are the best kind. The ones that have a lot of foot traffic, or the ones that are on a busy road. My antique mall has no foot traffic, virtually no foot traffic, but it's on a busy road. It's on US 1, so there are a lot of tourists that drive there. The other antique malls that have a lot of foot traffic, they can be in sort of downtown areas, they can be close to college campuses and whatnot. Those are great too, because again, you're just going to get a lot of people browsing. If you are on a busy road and you get tourists, that's awesome too, because tourists are generally in a buying mood. You know, they want to bring something back from their trip. So those are the two locations I would advise you to look for. Either heavy traffic, tourist traffic, or heavy foot traffic. Okay, I know this is getting long. I really just wanted to start off this. This is going to get a little more structured as the week goes by, and you can ask me questions like I said, but I have a list of topics that I'm going to cover. This was just the intro, so come back tomorrow and I will talk more about having an antique booth. All right, this is Kay from Mad Main. Have a great day.